Attila the Hun, often referred to as the Scourge of God, was one of the most feared and notorious leaders in the history of Europe. His name evokes images of terror and destruction as he led the Huns in a series of brutal campaigns across Europe in the 5th century. Attila's rise to power and his reign over the Huns have left an indelible mark on history, particularly for his ability to unite the scattered Hunnic tribes and strike fear into the Roman Empire. Early life and background. Attila's exact birth date is unclear, but he is believed to have been born around 406 CE, possibly in the region of modern-day Hungary or the wider Eurasian steppes. He was a member of the Hunnic royal family, the son of Mundzuk, a chieftain who led one of the Hunnic tribes. Attila's family came from a nomadic tradition, with their empire centered around the steppes of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. The Huns were originally a people of Mongol origin, known for their horsemanship and military prowess. By the time Attila came into the picture, the Huns were already an established power, having invaded Eastern Europe and attacked the Roman Empire. The Huns were known for their brutality, using tactics such as hit-and-run raids, psychological warfare, and fear to break their enemies. Attila's early years were spent in this warlike environment, where he learned the art of warfare and leadership. Attila's rise to power. Attila's rise to power is tied to the death of his uncle, Rugila, who had been the leader of the Huns. After Rugila's death in 433 CE, Attila and his brother Balda inherited the leadership of the Huns jointly. However, the brothers were not content to rule together for long. According to some accounts, Attila killed Balda to seize sole control of the Hunnic Empire around 445 CE. This ruthless act set the tone for Attila's reign and his relentless pursuit of power. Under Attila's leadership, the Huns grew more organized and aggressive. He expanded the Hunnic Empire into a formidable force, uniting the various Hunnic tribes and forging alliances with other groups. Attila was a shrewd and strategic leader, able to manipulate both diplomacy and military might to further his goals. His military campaigns, often swift and devastating, made him one of the most feared figures in Europe. Conquests and military campaigns. Attila's military campaigns were primarily aimed at the weakening and eventual downfall of the Roman Empire, which was already in decline. His first significant conflict with the Romans came in 441 CE when he launched an invasion of the Eastern Roman Empire, then ruled from Constantinople. This invasion was partly in response to the Romans' failure to meet the Huns' demands for tribute. Attila's forces raided the Balkans and captured several important cities. In 443 CE, he reached the gates of Constantinople, forcing the Eastern Roman Emperor, Theodosius II, to pay a large ransom and agree to further tribute payments to the Huns. However, Attila's greatest and most famous campaigns occurred later in his reign. In 451 CE, Attila turned his attention to the Western Roman Empire. He invaded Gaul, modern-day France, and was met by a Roman coalition led by the general Flavius Aetius. The two armies clashed in the Battle of the Catalonian Plains, a brutal and bloody conflict. Despite heavy losses on both sides, Attila's Huns were unable to achieve a decisive victory, and the Roman forces, with the help of their Visigothic allies, managed to repel the invasion. However, Attila was not deterred. He turned his attention to Italy, and in 452 CE, he invaded the Italian peninsula. The Huns ravaged cities, including Aquileia, which was destroyed in a particularly savage attack. It is said that Attila's forces were on the verge of reaching Rome when a mysterious diplomatic intervention took place. Pope Leo I is said to have met with Attila, and somehow convinced him to turn back. The exact details of this meeting are unclear, but the invasion was halted, and Attila returned to his homeland. Decline and death. Attila's power was at its peak by the mid-450s, but his empire began to decline shortly after. His sudden death in 453 CE remains shrouded in mystery. Various theories have been proposed regarding his demise, including that he was assassinated, died from internal bleeding, or succumbed to an illness. What is known is that Attila's death marked the beginning of the disintegration of the Hunnic Empire. His sons, who succeeded him, were unable to maintain the empire's unity or its power. Attila's death also led to the fragmentation of the Huns into smaller groups. Within a few decades, the once mighty Hunnic Empire collapsed, and the Huns largely disappeared from the historical stage. Legacy. Attila's legacy is one of destruction and fear, but also of military brilliance. He is remembered as one of the greatest barbarian conquerors in history, a man who nearly brought down the Roman Empire. His tactics, his unrelenting nature, and his ability to inspire fear in his enemies made him a figure of legend. In the centuries that followed, Attila became a symbol of barbarism and the destructive force of the so-called barbarians who brought the Roman Empire to its knees. In popular culture, Attila has often been portrayed as a ruthless and bloodthirsty leader, a reflection of the terror he inspired during his lifetime. However, Attila was more than just a savage warlord. He was also a political leader, a master of diplomacy, and a ruler who understood the dynamics of power. His ability to unite the Huns and forge alliances with other groups was a key factor in his success. Though his empire did not survive long after his death, Attila's name remains one of the most enduring in the annals of history.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe our channel.